A lot of focus on regulation and whether lawmakers are actually here in the U.S. are actually going to put pen to paper in terms of policing some of these big cap tech companies. After those comments from Senator Warren, what do you think? Is it possible?
Well, I would agree with the Instagram co-founder's view is there's a lot of details that ultimately would need to be worked out. But, you know, at the core, so many of these applications, whether it's the companies she mentioned or even larger companies like an Oracle or an SAP that get thrown in there, so many of the technologies are really integrated at their core and deliver significant value to both individual consumers and corporate customers, that there's a lot of detail that needs to be broken out to actually achieve some of those high-level goals.
David, clearly some of these companies have huge amounts of market share within the sort of subsectors of the markets that they operate, but competition law, for it to be put in place, also requires the consumer to be getting hurt. Are consumers getting hurt?
I think consumers have been hurt. We've operated here under a model whereby consumers have essentially given over their data. We know that there have been concerns that have been raised. You know, some of these companies, clearly Facebook amongst them, have not been model citizens in terms of respecting data privacy. And we do know that on a global basis, the regulatory environment is changing as a result of the EU's introduction of the global data privacy regime that went into effect in May of last year. So we are operating in a situation here where there does need to be a need for greater supervision. Does that need to lead to a point where we have to have these companies broken up? It might be possible. But we also, at the same time, as politicians look at developing economic competition policy, we do need to be mindful of the fact we operate now in a more global market, and the United States has a very large competitor in the form of China, who has a government-led technology sector that's looking clearly to take leadership in emerging technologies between now and 2025. So as policymakers and regulators get to work, different realities from a competitive standpoint need to be taken into account.
Scott, one thing you can normally infer when a politician makes a case like this is that it seems to be popular. I mean, they're obviously coming up with this proposal because they think it'll resonate, and in this case, maybe even with folks across the political spectrum. So whether or not there's a breakup effort, I wonder if at least it means a chilling effect on these big companies doing additional acquisitions or anything else that you think a lot of these companies might have to reassess.
So we think it's too early to necessarily make that leap. Obviously, if these are issues that get pushed further down the road in terms of maybe further along in the presidential campaign or maybe larger grassroots efforts, there might be an opportunity there. But we don't think it slows down M&A broadly in the tech space, at least in the short term.
David, would you still, as an investor, be looking to buy some of these names, or does this put a chilling effect, to use Mike's words, on these stocks and owning them right now?
Well, I would say certainly that given the way things are made up now on Capitol Hill, with the Senate being clearly held by the Republicans, the possibility of any of this becoming law is very thin until we start getting into the 117th Congress in 2021. So from that standpoint, there's certainly an opportunity here for industry to further consolidate. But I would say this could be a chilling effect. And do note, as Mike might have noted earlier, technology has led the S&P 500 off the bottom back in March of 2009. Technology is the leadership sector for the stock market as a whole. And, you know, to the extent that the storm clouds are coming, investors might think as we get further towards the election, maybe taking some money off the table. But for the time being, 2019 probably still should be a good year for tech.